In the last video, we spoke all about the carbon markets, how do they work, what is cap and trade and carbon offsetting. Let's take this forward now. There are two types of carbon markets, voluntary and compliance. Now, voluntary is where corporates or individuals who wish to offset emissions on their own and no regulation is required. Then there are compliance markets, where such an activity is driven by emission reduction targets or regulations. Now, examples of this would be EU ETS or the Emission Transmission System, there's China ETS, Regional Greenhouse Initiative in the US. Since the Paris Agreement of 2015, issuance of voluntary credits have increased by 5 times. Now, there are benefits of such a market since there is direct financing of climate action projects and there is investment into innovation for emerging climate technologies. But there are various issues with the voluntary markets. 1. There is no regulation. Second, it is a fragmented and complex market. And third, accounting and verification methodologies vary, which could lead to a number of issues, including double counting. Recently, the voluntary carbon markets came under the spotlight. There have been questions around genuine carbon reductions and lack of price transparency as well. European Commission demanded more transparency around carbon offsets in a crackdown on greenwashing. In March 2022, they highlighted that methodologies are not always transparent, accurate, or even consistent. And these discrepancies could lead to, as I said earlier, double counting. So, double counting is when a carbon credit is claimed by more than one entity even when no carbon benefit is actually produced. In some cases, carbon credits are bought without any benefit to the environment as well, and that continues to be a cause of concern. In fact, let's listen in to what the experts have to say.
In 2021, the voluntary carbon market was worth about $2 billion USD dollars. Now, in terms of issuance of credits, there were just under 300 million tons of carbon credits issued. And in 2022, over 4,000 projects registered across the main standards in the market. So if you go over to the Climate Bonds Initiative, they estimate that the market, the voluntary carbon market, would be worth between 10 to 20 billion USD in 2030. Now, if you go over to other associations or other groups working on these estimates, including the task force of scaling voluntary carbon markets, which is essentially a group of leading financial institutions, companies, NGOs that are working to scale the market. Those guys, they estimate between 50 billion to 100 billion by 2050. And then you go over to Morgan Stanley, and the bank estimates it could go from 100 to 250 billion by 2050. Now, there are indeed some issues today that are mostly linked about the lack of consensus of the credit quality and the lack of integrity of the demand, which obviously in turn affects the confidence of buyers in this market. This is also exacerbated by a shift in policy frameworks from national governments and the most recent growing, let's say, public scrutiny and greenwashing accusations that we've seen recently. So these are the main issues that we see today. But there are some initiatives today that have started to provide support for those corporate buyers, for those suppliers of credits.
Where carbon laws in India are also a developing story, so we'll cover that in the next video.